Make that big boss less special. It ain't no game, but they saying welcome to the second level. Second level.
Hello, Internet, and welcome back to Codename Morpheus. We're back in the basement this week with another dip into the world of the virtual. This is Codename Morpheus, where we will bring you the latest new releases, sales, news. We're going to spotlight a game, and we have a funky question at the end.
What episode is it, Tom?
28.
There you go.
Come on, you're killing me. Episode 28, and my name is Tom, and as always, my co-host is with me. This is Keegan, and we're here to jam. So, how's your day been so far, sir?
It's good. We recorded, oh, I sneeze. We recorded Indie Please That Details.
Didn't work.
That was fun. And then tonight we are doing, which is technically a couple days ago for you guys, we are doing a Overwatch stream where we're going to play our placements and comp and see what the fuck happens.
Yeah, that's exciting and terrifying at the same time, because
I'm mid gold when I place. Well, technically, I think me and James place together, but he is like plat. James is good at that game.
Yeah,
he has 6 times more hours than I do in that game.
I have not. I've had 2 weeks.
What level are you?
So, 57.
Oh, you're fine. I'm only 207.
Yeah, so anyway, this is going to be Codename Morpheus episode 28, and we're back. We had a week off. Sorry about that. If you may have seen the video with Keegan like a sniveling mess, because he was not feeling so good last week. But we're back now.
I'm still a sniveling mess, just not quite as... I have a voice now.
Yeah.
I still feel a little drainage. Also, housekeeping. There will be a live stream, 24-hour live stream on Sunday, March 11th into Monday, March 12th, starting at noon Central Standard Time. 24-hour live stream for Able Gamers charity. We will be giving away a bunch of keys, some PSVR keys, so come hang out.
We reached
out to devs, and they're like, here you go. Things like Sprint Vector will be there.
Moss.
Just saying.
Yeah, some good stuff in there.
Yeah.
So definitely tune in for that. That means that we probably won't be here next week, but you can tune in to the 24-hour live stream, grab yourself some keys, watch some VR gameplay.
And donate to charity.
I
cheers that when I did it.
We're going to be doing that
to charity
all night. That's going to be an all night and all day thing. So it'll be a good time. Please join us and help Able Gamers help people to play games, because that's what we like people to do.
Hashtag so everyone can play.
You got it. So that being said, let's dip into our world of the virtual. This week there is a lot of controversy. I'm not going to get too heavily into it until we get to the very first part of the news section, but I will talk about new releases, and the first new release is the thing that is the controversy, and that is Bravo Team came out. Like that? Bravo.
Roll the rim to win. If you're from Canada, you know what that is.
I don't.
So Tim Hortons, you know Tim Hortons, the coffee shop, they have what's roll up the rim to win, where basically when you drain your coffee, you roll up the rim, and underneath there's a prize.
Yeah.
So it's literally roll up the rim to win.
Well, Bravo Team is out today, which is Tuesday for us recording, but for you guys, it will be a couple days ago. And, of course, this is Supermassive's chance to make up for all the bad stuff that happened with the Inpatient. Did they pull it off? You know what? I'm just going to go ahead and say let's wait for the news section to find out. That is a $40 game if you want to pick it up brand new. More on that later. The other game that will be out was out on Tuesday is Rangi, and Rangi,
which we knew nothing about.
No, we didn't know anything about it.
I saw them drop, and I was like, "Ooh,
it looks great." Actually, it is a African-inspired platform game. Puzzle platform game or something.
No, just puzzle.
Just puzzle game.
Yes,
ignore me.
African-inspired puzzle game,
and it kind of looks like an interesting mixture of like Limelight with The Witness. Basically, it seems like you're having to travel a circuit of some kind through a room to open doors, and obviously you're in a virtual world, so there's a lot of environmental puzzles and things like that going on.
I played the shit out of The Witness recently, and I love that.
Yeah, the vibe is pretty cool on it. I liked it.
This is a Keegan game in a nutshell.
Yeah, $10 as well. So $10 for Rangi if you're interested in a nice, cool puzzle-looking game. And honestly, I want to hear more on it, but I'm probably going to pick it up, review it, see how it goes.
I will probably pick it up because, like I said,
the last release this week isn't out until the 8th, and this is a game I have played, which is Audio Beats. Audio Beats was a Hong Kong-only game for a long time. It's kind of similar to like a SingStar style game where basically you have a library of songs that you can purchase more songs, but it is it's a drumming game. So you have a electronic drum pad that you use in front of you, and alongside having to actually keep rhythm, you also have some interesting things thrown in the mix, like you have to hold down and follow some across the drum skins and kind of just flick notes in a certain like directional way. I liked it a lot. I think out of the big debate was really between this and Happy Drummer. What do you get? And a lot of folks sided on Happy Drummer. I side on Audio Beats. I thought Audio Beats was way more interesting. I thought the songs were way more exciting, kind of fun to play. Like I got a lot more into Audio Beats than I did get into Happy Drummer. So even though it may not be as precise as far as drumming goes, I think as far as gameplay goes, Audio Beats is a really good time.
You can now say, we have the beats, we have the beats.
Yes.
Hey, Audio Beats.
You should write jingles for a living. But those are your three main new releases for this week. Bravo Team, Rangi, and Audio Beats. So if you pick up any of those, let us know what you think about them. Specifically, the first one would be interesting. So moving on to the sales for the week. We have just a couple, but they are pretty sweet. We have Senran Gakura Peach Beach Splash. You can get 2 editions of this. Sexy Soaker edition, which is $39 down from $60.
What does Sexy Soaker get you that the regular edition does?
I don't.
Do you know?
No idea.
More bikinis
and regular, more boobs. A regular edition, which is $30 down from $50. Yeah, I honestly don't know. You can look at the description.
This game actually is like, if you take it as like just a stupid Japanese game, it looks very fun to play. Like, I used to play Dead or Alive Extreme Beach Volleyball, which is surprisingly a good volleyball game, but it also is surprisingly
a good third-party like shooter. Like, here's the thing about it. So the reason why it's on PSVR is because there are VR elements
where you can stare
don't
at girls.
Let that confuse you. The VR elements are purely staring at posed females. And
Tom enjoys that. I don't know if you know this.
Creepy.
That's his favorite thing to do in VR.
That. It's the worst thing ever.
His favorite thing in VR.
It's what do they call it? It's like there's a word for
modeling?
It. No, it's like I don't know what it is, but either way, it's awful. You just kind of put them in a pose, and you can be like, "Oh, I want you to cry," and then like trust me,
God.
That's an option. And you know, and then you can like size them up and make like
rapist.
Giant Amazon.
Is that the word you're looking for?
And it's awful.
Predator.
But the actual game, Peach Beach Splash, which is not in VR, is a whole lot of fun. Actually, I really liked it.
That's what I'm saying. It looks
like
it's like Dead or Alive, where like it's got boobs and it kind of the people are like
it's
whatever, but like, dude, it's actually pretty good.
Splatoon. Or even like Fortnite. It's got like the Fortnite physics. So if you like Fortnite, then honestly, it might be worth picking up for that game alone. And the other one, which is a full VR title, is Final Fantasy 15 Monsters of the Deep. Pretty heavy price cut on this, 50%. There's a Square Enix publisher sale, and it is $15 down from $30. This game is cool. It may not be the best fishing game in the universe, but it's definitely a lot of fun. The story mode is interesting. The monsters are neat. There's definitely like once you catch a couple fish, you get a boss battle, you have to do some messing around with the boss, like shooting it with actual like arrows and shit, and then you have to catch the boss to finish off the boss. And there's like several lakes around the Final Fantasy universe where you're sort of going to take care of these monsters. There's lots of challenge modes, and there's like fishing competitions, and it's neat. It's a really cool time. I enjoyed the game a lot, immensely, and I'd say $15 is a steal for Monsters of the Deep Final Fantasy 15. You haven't played that yet, have you? You played that yet?
No.
You should. Well, maybe we're playing on the stream. Okay.
I don't like monsters.
They're not really monsters. They're just ugly fish.
I know, but they jump at you.
They do jump in.
Yeah, see?
So there
Case
you go.
closed.
Very, very, very quickly went through your new
face.
releases and your sales, but now we're on to the news.
It's crazy because a few weeks ago, it was just fucking banana sales.
Yes, banana sales.
And now it's less
Ace
bananas.
Banana was on sale.
Now it's only
Now you got a couple.
Baby's banana sales.
But let's talk about the big controversy of the week, shall we? And that is Bravo Team. So, a couple weeks back.
Well, we should say neither of us have played it.
Neither of us have played it, but a couple weeks back, a game that I have played is The Inpatient. Inpatient came out to, let's say, mixed reviews. I don't think anyone universally panned it, but there was definitely a lot there that was like, okay.
Could have been better.
Yeah, this is
Especially
not
the price.
quite what we were hoping for. It's not bad. It's not good. It's kind of in the middle. I personally enjoyed it quite a lot, as you may have noticed from my review. But we asked a question at the end of that. Are you now concerned about Supermassive and about Bravo Team specifically?
And I said yes.
And you said yes, and I said yes. So turns out we may have been right to have been concerned. So again, pre-emphasis on this, have not played the game.
We're going based on what we've seen from gameplay
But
and
here's
other impressions.
your first bit of news for the week. Eurogamer absolutely panned the shit out of Bravo Team, and they weren't the only ones. There was a German guy, who managed to get footage up. I think he broke embargo like a motherfucker, and he got a 30-minute clip up where he was talking as he was playing, and someone actually translated it on Reddit, and they were like, "Oh, he doesn't like this at all." And I thought, yeah, maybe it's one German dude. Who cares, right? And then Eurogamer actually went so far as to make a video called 7 Reasons Why You Should Not Buy Bravo Team. And a lovely, since I can't really play the video for you, I mean, I could put it behind, but I'll give you the summary of those 7 reasons. Someone translated it on Reddit, so thank you to you, Rockavoy. Number 1. The scale of your character is completely off, which was a fucking problem in The Inpatient as well. Everyone was giants in that game. It was super weird. It felt okay when you realized that you also were a giant, but it's still kind of weird. In VR, you kind of want to be 6 foot, but you felt like you were 7 foot in that game.
Maybe they scaled it based on a giant.
I mean, maybe the character's just a giant. Who knows? Number 2, limited range of movement. Thank you. Yeah, that's a good idea. I don't want to be in front of my face because you want to see my pretty face. Limited range of movement, jarring immersion, breaking movement transitions. So what we're talking about there is that it's a cover-based shooter. As you know, you move from cover to cover, but they're saying that moving from cover to cover basically just takes you completely out of the immersion, which is not good in a VR game. Immersion is 50% of your deal. Number 3, aim implementation is poor. The gun position is odd. Controller lags. Aiming using scopes and sights is too unwieldy. That's just not good at all. I mean, the aim controller is the one thing you really had to get right in this game. It was the first, after Farpoint, really, it was the first one that everyone knew that you were doing it from the aim for. I know we had a couple since then, but this was the one that everyone was thinking the aim was going to be a really good deal for. So that's bad news. Number 4, the arsenal is bad. There are only 4 firearms, lacking punch. Bugs means they sometimes won't fire, which is not great. 4 guns in your military shooter, and sometimes they don't even fire at all. Not a good start. Number 5, infinitely spawning enemies with poor repetitive AI and glitching through solid objects. I'll leave that right there. 6, bland, low-budget level design. If anything was to be said about this game that I think would have gone well, it would be that the level design would be interesting, or at least polished, right? Because The Inpatient was super polished, but that's interesting. And 7, it's negative publicity for the VR platform, which I think is probably the most important of all those reasons. And actually the reason why I'm not going to get it. We did not receive a code from Supermassive for this, and I'm starting to realize why. But because of all of these things, normally as a review team for VR, I will buy it anyway. I did it with Impatient. I knew I didn't want to drop $40 on Impatient, but I did it because I wanted to write a review for the channel, and I thought it can't possibly be that bad. With this one, even though I gave the Impatient a pass, a kind of like a half pass, this time around I'm not going to get it, and I'm not going to review it because I'll get it in a sale when it's $10 or something, but I'm not going to get it like immediately to review it for you guys, because honestly I feel like that is putting money towards something that by everything that's come out so far has absolutely failed in what it promised to do, and I don't want to reward that.
Can I read another review here just to give another
please
perspective?
add to it. Yeah, go for it.
So this is a guy. I'm in a PlayStation Facebook group, and he doesn't do reviews like on a website or anything. He just reviews every game that comes out, and he broke it down really good. He goes, just completed Bravo Team, so wanted to do a review on it. The good shooting feels really good. Audio is great for the weapons. Online co-op will be great fun. Replayability is awesome. Graphics are nice and sharp. Tracking for the most part is good. The bad. Short game can be cleared about 2 hours, and I think we might debate that later whether that's bad or not. But the locations all look pretty much the same. Would have been nice to see some variety. No grenades. They would have been perfect for this game. Stories very generic. All can sometimes be poor. AI can be sometimes poor for teammates. The ugly. I don't know if it's just my PS4, but the screen kept cutting to black for a brief second while playing it. Has never happened to any other PSVR game.
Is a PSVR glitch, actually.
The movement is shambles. I really don't get why they did it this way. Either do it on rails or have movement in first-person point of view. Locomotion doesn't matter, but it really breaks immersion and can get really confusing as the camera doesn't keep up with a lot of the times. Stealth is laughable. Use the aim for what it's meant for, shooting everyone. Overall, it's a game similar to Time Crisis without big set pieces and with some small tactical gameplay in terms of moving in body position and flanking. It's good for just switching your brain off and going around shooting people. It's not going to win any awards, but I don't think it is a terrible game by any means. It's few for fun hours that you can play again and again just to use the aim. If you have a friend that wants to play it and enjoy it, if you have a friend to play it, and then you will enjoy it more. Verdict 7 out of 10. If you have an aim, buy it. If not, don't bother.
Interesting.
So I just want to give another perspective.
No, that's good. That's more balanced. I feel like this guy's more balanced maybe than the Eurogamer video. Yeah. But yeah, I just thought the fact that Eurogamer decided that they had to make a video to sort of warn people away from this game is interesting. But the other kind of reviews that we've all seen have been kind of universally along those lines is that, you know, this was supposed to be a lot more than it ended up being, which sadly leaves us kind of really hoping that Firewall and those guys pick up the pace as far as trying to get the shooters correct in PSVR, because so far the only real thing that's out there that some people have enjoyed is the Strange Games Honor and Duty, which I did not enjoy. And it's kind of sad because I thought Bravo. I knew when they said it was going to be teleportation-based cover shooter that it wasn't going to be everything we wanted it to be. But at the same time, I thought it would still be like a pretty good time. So I'm kind of sad. Like I said, we haven't played it, so I can't pan it, and I won't pan it. But I will tell you that everyone else is panning it. So that's apart from this guy who sort of is like a bit more fair.
That's what I'm saying, because I felt like the Eurogamer guy was just super negative. It's not a bad game.
You wonder how much of that is justifying purchase, though. As well.
It's not.
You know.
Well, yeah, but I still agree though that I don't think the game is as bad as everybody's making it to be. Okay. I don't think it met the expectations because we had such high expectations for it. That's where I think it's at.
I think it's a mixture of expectations and the $40 price point.
Yeah, but I also don't think it's a bad game. It's kind of like how like Impatient, like you said, Impatient wasn't necessarily a bad game at its core. It had a lot of issues.
Maybe high expectations.
Yeah, I think that's what a lot of this comes down to. And I don't want to. Again, I've not played it, so I can't speak firsthand to it. But a lot of the reviews have been not great. But there are reviews that are like, hey, I saw some dude that's like, I enjoyed my time in Bravo Team. It was janky as hell, but I had a good time with it. And I don't want to say don't necessarily pick it up because it could be fun, but if you do pick it up, this is the warning essentially.
This is buyer's warning.
Like I don't want to say don't get it, which is weird because normally you're the one saying don't say don't get it. But I just don't want to be like, okay, this game is garbage, period, because we don't know.
I hate ripping on games. I do. Like I wrote my review for Honor and Duty, and it's the first First real time I felt like I've been kind of mean to a game.
Welcome to my life.
And yeah, no, I hated it because I wanted that game to succeed so bad. And I know those guys tried so hard to get that game past QA that I just I hated having to do it. But at the same time, I felt like an obligation after playing it to at least kind of put it out there. Anyway, more on that later.
Yeah, it's. I would say with Bravo Team, maybe not buy it full price, but if it does go on a sale,
definitely wait for a sale.
Would be good. Regardless. And I don't think it again. Not played it, but from all the different perspectives I've read when it comes to the groups I'm in, the people who have played it, whether it's reviewer or just average Joe, have been, it's not what I expected. Some people have been, it's not what I expected, but it's still good. There's people, it's not what I expected, and I hate it. There's people that just will shit on it because...
Either way, it's no moss, I think is what we're saying. That being said, let's move on to the next piece of news, which is that GDC announcements have been made for Sony, and PSVR features a little bit in there. So Sony are going to be showcasing Moss, and it says the soon-to-release Bravo Team at the show in San Francisco this year.
Before it came out.
It's before it came out. And,
do you know what GDC is, by the way?
Sketchy. Game Developers Conference.
There you go. It's a big game conference. It's actually where they announced Codename Morpheus.
Yeah.
Way back when.
Yeah,
it's where they announced it.
There are two VR-relevant talks to look out for. The first, taking place on Monday the 19th of March at 1:20 p.m. PT, sees Ian Bickerstaff, Director of Immersive Video Technology, Sony Interactive Entertainment Europe, talking about the making of the Joshua Bell VR video that released on the headset last year. Bickerstaff will discuss how the company created the illusion of full volumetric video to enable positional tracking in this experience. The Joshua Bell was a free thing. It was kind of cool, kind of neat. I like those. I think they are supposed to be doing more of those, which is I look forward to. But that should be an interesting talk. And then PlayStation VR Worlds and Blood and Truth developers, Sony London Studio, will also be at the show. Cinematic animation lead Gabor Sus will be talking about player engagement in VR cinematics during the show, exploring how the team balances user engagement in cutscenes in VR games. That session takes place on Thursday, 22nd of March at 2 p.m. There you go. So kind of neat. It's glad to see Sony still harping on, still bringing it back, still talking about it. But if you are going to that show, then that's a fun bit of news for you, that you will actually get to go and see some relatively interesting sounding talks on PSVR. Also announced for PSVR, alongside the Rift and the Vive, coming very, very soon, is the Crisis on the Planet of the Apes VR. Now, we saw that there was a Planet of the Apes game that came out it was PlayLink, wasn't it? On the PS4 a couple weeks back. That looked just horrendous, but apparently they're doing a VR one, so here you go. Crisis on the Planet of the Apes is a full VR game developed by the new Fox Next VR studio. It's a first-person shooter in which, yes, you play as one of the intelligent apes that rises up to form a new civilization on Earth. The game is set in between Rise of the Planet of the Apes and Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, and sees you trying to escape from a detention facility in which humans are experimenting on you in search of a cure. Playing as an ape might sound a little odd, but it actually introduces some unique gameplay mechanics. You'll be able to clamber up and along pipes using your hands, for example, and execute huge jumps to cover ground. When you're not crawling around, you'll be armed with an assault rifle to take down human enemies, and there's a trailer for that. So what do you think of that? Do you think that makes it sound
I watched the trailer while you're describing that, because I had not seen it yet, and it looks interesting. It looks cool. There is one section where the ape is climbing up the up the pipes and all that, and it looks like it has promise. I'm not a Planet of the Apes guy. I've never seen a Planet of the Apes, so like the IP does nothing for me. I'm sure.
I'm right there with you. I have seen them, and I still don't like them.
Yeah, I'm sure if like you like Planet of the Apes, you might be a little bit more into this.
I just thought you being a monkey.
Well, I was gonna say
I might be like.
Yeah, but it's a get out of it's escape the room. Doesn't matter what you're playing as.
Yeah.
I mean, monkey doesn't mean anything other than like climbing and stuff like that.
I would think like the jumping and stuff would be more fun, because you might actually experience some kind of
if there is jumping,
you know. Well, they said you can jump large gaps as the monkey and stuff. So,
but I wonder how you do that though.
Well, I'm saying like if you do it, then is it going to feel like Windlands where your guts go out and like have like actually feel kind of interesting?
Because the trailer shows monkeys with guns trying to escape a thing, which it looked good, but a lot of it's going to come down to, I think, kind of how generic it is. If it's generic with the Planet of the Apes skin, I won't care. But if it's done right with some cool mechanic twists, like they said, being a monkey could lead to interesting things. If they do that right, then we're good. If they don't, then it's just another generic shooter, wave-based shooter probably.
I think a lot of it's also just going to depend on the price tag.
I don't see it being that expensive.
No, I mean,
I'm thinking 20.
If they start asking too much.
Depends on how long it is.
We'll see. So anyway, Planet of the Apes fans, rejoice! You are going to get a VR game where you get to be a monkey. Also, we have an actual. I'm surprised it's taken this long for this to happen. There's an MLB home run game coming out for the same folks that did RBI Baseball, and that is MLB Advanced Media. So the company announced that they are going to be developing MLB Home Run Derby VR, a smaller experience that the studio is planning to release on PlayStation VR and the Vive this spring. The batting practice game has its origins in a product that MLBAM created last year, an experimental ballpark attraction that became so wildly successful that the company is expanding it in 2018, both to additional stadiums and to the gaming audience. It's a testament to the smart way that MLBAM uses all of the parts of the buffalo when it comes to the software it develops, but it's also a lot of fun. So there you go. So it's something that they have actually had in like actual ball grounds and stuff. It sounds kind of fun. Sorry, I don't know the terminology. But I mean, let's be honest, baseball was one of the first things that showed up on a Wii, and I think VR is prime candidate for it.
The only thing I see here that I think is a cool concept. I think it'd be a lot of fun, especially if you have like competitive mode, like to high score against your friends or whatever. I mean, you could do it locally without having to do it, but my concern with something like this is it could get boring real quick.
Yeah,
but
it depends how much you like baseball.
As long as there's all the different ballparks, like I would play obviously in Citizens Field, Citizen One Park because it's Philly. But they in the trailer they show a bat peripheral. So the weird thing to me that would be swinging a move because it's one hand. Technically, I mean, I guess you do it with the Wii because I've never tried to put two hands onto a move controller. I don't know how big.
It would
like,
be just about doable.
Size-wise, I just don't know how it would feel.
What if they just like to aim like sideways?
And you're not going to do that.
No.
You'd break something.
Or just make a stick with
you'd break something.
A little bauble on the end of it.
Yeah.
But cool. Right.
As a sports fan, I think this is kind of cool.
Yep.
I wish something I hope they would add to it outside of this is touring the ballpark. So like maybe you could tour the ballpark and do the home run. That adds a little bit more to the experience versus just like. Because it has like 2 times, 3 times, and if you hit them, I guess you get point
they've
bonuses.
already kind of explained that it's a minimum thing, but it says the full experience features a batting cage, which is kind of neat. And, you know, I just kind of, I don't know, it's like a neat idea to me. I think it's interesting. So there you go. Next up, the American Dream and Time Carnage potentially have been confirmed, I guess unintentionally, for April 6th. So basically, Amazon UK posted up that the American Dream and Time Carnage were going to be releasing on April 6th. That means for the UK, clearly, but most of the time for bigger releases, and these are kind of mid-tier releases, they do tend to come out in most countries at the same time. Not always, but usually. So if that's the case, then that means that we should get our hands on these within sort of about a month or so. Now, Time Carnage was the one where you go through different periods of time and take out like fucking dinosaurs and robots and all kinds of stuff. It's wave-based, so I wasn't super interested in that. American Dream is the one that actually has me kind of like, okay, this is one I'm probably going to pick up regardless because it's so stupid, which is the one where you basically are doing like day-to-day tasks with guns, which is in and of itself a touchy topic right about now. So I do wonder actually if they're going to feel the brunt of any of that, if that does reach a wider audience.
I don't think so.
I wouldn't think so either, but who knows?
Also, Donald Trump apparently is meeting with video game people that the video game people said, we don't know about this.
Don't you worry about that.
That was funny.
That's going to be a discussion.
It was funny because they were like, we don't know about what's going on here.
Yeah, apparently they have agreed to do it, which is anyway. So then there's a new patch for Honor and Duty, which is going to resolve a lot of the issues, which makes me really happy because, like I said, this was a game that I hated having to review poorly because there's so much promise, but I felt that ultimately it fell flat. So here's the patch note updates for Honor and Duty. If you have played it, if you're thinking about picking it up, it's a cheap game, so it's not like you really lose a lot if you buy this and don't like it. It's like $7, but here's the nuts and bolts of it. So it's the second VR patch. The big change is a 5-second invulnerability to achieve or to help alleviate spawn camping. The other big requested item was to not have to hold down the stick when running. There's also vibration for shooting and the option for lefties to swap triggers. You can also now toggle the HUD on and off with the left D-pad option, which, let me tell you, is great because that was super fucking annoying. The HUD would never go away, and it would follow your head everywhere, so like it would block stuff, and it was annoying. So here's, and I love how they say, hopefully we didn't break anything. So here's a full rundown. So you have altered weapon and geometry fix, warning when the headset is out of sync, auto reset headset when first starting game, changed layout of score screen, added 5-second invulnerability when spawning in multiplayer, fixed medic kill glitch, fixed issue with some weapons showing through the geometry in multiplayer. That just means showing through walls. Fixed player names, wrapping in multiplayer, added ability to toggle the main HUD, added swapping triggers, added option to either hold or press to run, added rumble for shots fired, and they tweaked the amount of gun required to trigger glitch protection for multiplayer, tweaked the M1911 orientation in VR mode, tweaked player name sizes in multiplayer, and tweaked hit zones and headshot areas. Also,
the M1911, by the way.
Whatever. After they took to Twitter, this is really recently, I think yesterday, and they said that they're also going to add vehicles, which seems, if you've played this game in VR, you will know that seems like a stretch. It seems like maybe let's just let sleeping dogs lie and not try and complicate things with vehicles, but that is sure as fuck what they want to do.
From their perspective, they're learning.
No, and I'm fine with that, and I pointed that out. I'm like, if this is for you to learn how to do things, then that's awesome. But yeah, adding vehicles seems weird, judging on the play space and things like that. Like, you don't have a lot of ground in multiplayer, so the vehicle thing seems weird.
Maybe they're micro vehicles.
But I mean, it's fine. You know what I mean? Like, as long as you don't break anything when you add them, then sure, go for it. But that's an interesting side note. They did release some footage of it on Twitter too. You can follow them. I don't want to say it's at Strange Games, so I don't know if it is or not, but find Strange Games on Twitter, and they have the footage there. And they revealed that they are going to go full sequel too. They already have that in the works. They have gameplay available, a trailer available, and that is for a D-Day sort of version of Honor and Duty. I don't think it's from what I understand, and again, this might be speculation on my behalf, but from what I understand, it is a sequel. It's not it's not DLC. It's not revamping. It's not additional stuff. It is them releasing a whole new game based on the format of Honor and Duty. I don't know if it's going to be called like Honor and Duty D-Day or not, but it's based on D-Day, and it looks to be a lot more interesting and fully formed than Honor and Duty was, which was the main problem for them with Honor and Duty, was they already had this game. So when they added VR, that was neat. The idea of them understanding how VR works, they got the mechanics down really well. Like, it feels comfortable as fuck to play. The problem was the game itself was just not very good. It's a really generic, horribly generic shooter. And so, you can put a VR lick of paint on it, which feels good. It definitely makes it better, but it's still a bad game. So if you make a bad game VR, that doesn't necessarily make it a good game. Mm-hmm. It just makes it a bad game in VR. This one looks like they made it with VR in mind, which means that hopefully it would be a lot more interesting and hopefully better. So Strange Games reveal the Honor and Duty D-Day trailer. Gunheart adds weapon progression and a price drop before it's full released on PSVR in summer, which is kind of interesting that you have a price drop before it's even released. So Gunheart by Drifter Entertainment is still in early access. It's a big, dynamic, cooperative first-person shooter, but ever since its debut last year, it's gotten large, consistent updates. The latest update, which is called Winter Update, they just dropped. It took the price drop from $35 down to $30, and you can now unlock new abilities for your weapons via a progression mechanic, which adds some much-needed depth to the gameplay loop. It adds real incentive and a sense of growth to the game throughout missions. Additionally, all weapons now get a default signature mod, and there's a challenge system that will award extra loot if you complete specific objectives across missions. There's even been an animation overhaul for how enemies react to hits and animate when dying. So basically, it sounds like Gunheart is just
get more for less.
Yeah, they just added a bunch of crap and dropped the price on it. Which, I mean, let's have more of that, please. That's great. Thank you so much. And in Tom's favorite news of the week, and I love this so much, Persona 3 Dancing Moon Knight and Persona 5 Dancing Star Knight have released a VR trailer for both. It's both in one trailer. So for those of you that are fans of the Persona universe, and who isn't, apart from him, Persona...
I've never been in it, so I don't know anything about it.
It's so good. So
it looks interesting. There's lots of colors going on.
Oh yeah, it's super jazzy, and just like the whole game is beautiful. So Persona fans rejoice. Now, Persona dancing games are not, I should point this out heavily, are nothing like Persona games. They are kind of...
It's dance game with a Persona skin.
Yeah. They're like Dance Dance Revolution a la Persona, basically. So, you know, don't expect miracles here, but if you are big fans of the Persona universe and you kind of dig the idea of seeing some of those characters in VR, which I definitely do, then this is a thing that's happening. Now, I don't know how they're going to pull this off, is my secondary thought, is that when you see the trailer, which I'm sure you can see behind me, these games were designed for flat. They were designed as like press the buttons at the right time to do the moves. So I don't understand how that translates to actually being in VR, other than kind of the environmental part of it, where you get to be immersed more.
You know those games that say don't need VR? There you go.
You think that's one of them?
No,
I mean, but maybe they change it. Maybe they make it so you actually have to dance. I don't know. Who knows, right? So we'll find out, of course, closer to the time. The trailer is in full Japanese, so if you decide to watch it, if you're listening on audio, or if you just want to watch it with the audio, which I do recommend that you do, then, yeah, watch the trailer. You won't understand a word, but it does look crazy cool. And then we have a couple new trailers that dropped for PSVR games that are coming, and we wanted to go through. This is our weekly kind of... check this rando stuff out. Pixel Ripped 1989 is coming to PSVR. So that one looked really interesting. What did you think of the trailer for that? We watched that together a little earlier.
Sorry, I seen if they had English subtitles on, but they don't.
Okay.
Which one?
That was the one where you thought it was 2D for a second and then it pulled back. And
so that was one of those games. So again, talk about games I didn't think needed to be in VR. I was like, it looks like a Game Boy game essentially, or an old, it's an 8-bit SNES, NES looking game. That I was like, okay, why is this in VR? And then it pulled out from the screen. I was like, ooh. So that was kind of clever. I don't know what the actual game is then. It kind of threw me off.
It's definitely got a
but
90s, 80s vibe.
It was definitely cool. The fact that they did that, I'm hoping it's not just like you're in the classroom and you're playing this video game and then the VR is just you come out and get yelled at and you go back in. I'm hoping there's some sort of interaction between that, because that is a cool concept. One of the things I like, and I kind of... what was I can't remember the name of the bear game right now. Lost Bear. One of the things I panned it for was it didn't do enough things in VR to make it, in my opinion, to have it have VR. But the things it did with VR were really cool, like having the controls in front of you was kind of cool. You like the things buzzing around. I was like, I didn't care as much about that, but like the interactive stuff. But the whole pulling out of this game and going to the virtual world is a really cool concept. And if they do that as like a mechanic of some sort, I don't know how or what.
It could have just been a trailer thing, but if it is actually a part of the game, that would be.
It looked though like it was a VR. Like when we pulled out, it looked VR graphics. If that's the best way I think I can say it. It didn't look like it was a trailer graphic thing. It looked like gameplay graphics. I don't know for sure, obviously, but
we'll know more in the coming weeks and months, I'm sure. But definitely check it out. And then the other one, which I sort of headlined as something that you might enjoy, is literally called Throw Anything VR, which is basically Keegan in any VR game is suddenly Throw Anything VR. But it looks kind of like a weird combination of Dead Hungry and Job Simulator, where the graphical art style is interesting. It's kind of dumbed down a little bit, definitely in that kind of Job Simulator territory. But you are in a sort of a apartment building, and there are zombies that are climbing up the apartment building to you. You can utilize anything in the entire room, throw it at anything, including your roommate, or you can throw it at the zombies. And you also have some unique weapons that seem to appear. There's a lightsaber at one point that shows up. There's dual Uzis.
Lightsaber's trademarked. It's energy sword.
An energy sword, sure. There's like dual Uzis. There's all kinds of stuff. But essentially, it's like whack-a-mole with zombies.
You can throw a person out of a building.
You can throw things out of the. You can throw anything. Hence the name, Throw Anything VR. So
the only kind of concern I have with this is it's cool that you can throw anything, and once you saw like the things attacking you, it's like, okay, I have a mission. But is that the only mission I'm really going to do? Is that all I'm going to be doing? Is just throwing things at these monsters?
I think it might be.
But if they vary it up enough that like different things happen, that's fine. Like
different types
like it's not
of zombies,
like it's not or different ways they approach you. So like the one we saw in the trailer is they're climbing up the wall towards you and you throw things down on them or at the ground shooting them. There's going to be one that like comes in a helicopter that like jumps out of the helicopter, comes at you, or swings at you, like different. And that's where it's more fun. Yeah, that's like something to throw you off of. Like, okay, everything's down here. Oh shit, there's something up here. How do I get that one up there?
So yeah, progression will be interesting to see how that goes through.
But it looked good. I want to see a little bit more, so it's not kind of the same thing repeated every time.
That's fair. And then lastly, for the new trailers that came out for PSVR releases to come, it was a game that disappointed me slightly. That's because of the name, of course, and that is called Xenomorph. Xenomorph is not, sadly, an Alien or an Aliens game. It is just a sort of generic space shooter game where you are on a spaceship. It is very pretty looking as far as graphical fidelity, but there's definitely some jank factor to it. In the trailer, there is pop-up.
Yeah, we were watching the trailer together, and the guy leans around the corner and I go, wait, hold on, did that just pop in?
Yeah.
And I don't think you saw it initially.
No, I didn't. No.
And I
rewatched it and I noticed it. But yeah, they have pop in the trailer, which doesn't bode great for the full game. But also some of the animations were a little weird. Like when you like shoot some of the aliens, they just kind of like pushed backwards as opposed to like, you know, like the end. I don't know. It just was weird to me. It was a little bit ragdoll-y almost. But you know, it does have some sheen to it. It does have some polish.
Nothing wrong with ragdoll physics.
No, nothing wrong with it. But if you're in a game that is not based around ragdoll physics, there's something wrong with it. But it looks like it potentially is full motion. There was no teleportation mechanic that showed its head. There was no cover to cover. It looked like full motion, but I don't know for sure. I think it. You know, if any game is ever to utilize the aim controller, this is one that looks like it should utilize.
The only thing I noticed that looked weird, and again, we're not playing it, we're watching a video of somebody playing it, is the gun seemed like really high up for when he shot versus like, because the sight was on top of the gun, and you're looking, but you're shooting, so I'm sure there's a reticule he's aiming with, but like, to me, you would have put the gun in front of you to shoot down the sights versus like off to the right. Shooting.
It could just be a weird video translation. Whenever you watch the footage of me playing Cold Iron, it looks kind of similar to that. Like in game, it felt very different to when I watched the footage back.
That was just my initial when I saw it. I was like, that. It just seemed like the gun was slightly too far to the right, which when you're playing could not be the case.
Yeah. So Xenomorph, it looks okay. Just kind of keep your eye on it, and hopefully we get more news about that. So moving on, VR players are hungry for feature-rich games. I'm going to use your screen for this one. This is way bigger.
I made it way bigger.
Are hungry for a feature-rich game, says new poll. You sent me this.
I did.
We thought it was really cool.
I found it in my group, I think.
Yeah. So. Do you want to go ahead and read some of that off? Yes.
Games earned 55% of VR software revenue in 2017 thanks to consumers who want to pay for content up front. Devices like HTC Vive and PlayStation VR have attracted hardcore gamers who own the requisite console or gaming PC. Roughly 4 in 5 high-end headset owners use or plan to use VR to play games. While mobile VR leads in user numbers, the platform earned only 15% of VR games revenue last year. Bethesda was the biggest winner among publishers in 2017, releasing last year's highest earning PC and console VR titles. Most VR owners want longer, immersive experiences, but with such small audiences, most VR publishers cannot invest in the long, big-budget games.
Isn't that just the catch-22 of VR?
Bethesda, and that's what I've been saying all the time. You know, my business hat. I'm not going to pull it out now, but maybe later. Bethesda managed to get ahead of the curve, adapting existing role-playing games, Fallout 4 and Elder Scrolls V Skyrim, for the medium. So I'm going to go through the top 5 earning for PC VR games in 2017. Fallout 4 was number 1, and this is from Super Data, by the way. I feel like we should point that out. They're
stats.
Yeah, they're reliable. Fallout 4 VR earned revenue. This is not profit. Revenue is $4.7 million. Super Hot VR was $3 million. Job Simulator was $2.8. Raw Data was $2.5. And Arizona Sunshine, kind of surprising that's on there, is $2.4. For PSVR, top earning games for 2017, Elder Scrolls Skyrim was $2.2 million. Job Simulator 1.6. Super Hot 1.1. Batman Arkham 1.0. And I Expect You to Die 0.7 million, so 700,000. What's interesting with this is the revenue difference between the two, even though there's more PSVR headsets.
Yeah. Like, I was thinking that as you were saying it.
So, to give you an idea, virtual reality software revenue, games were 55%, other, so non-game experiences or other things that happen are
Videos,
45%. Yeah. So I don't know if they include 360 videos in that or not. I assume not, because it's not made for VR.
Not necessarily, but I think that's a lot of what the mobile audience is doing, is they're just watching 360 videos with those quirky little headset things. Yeah. That's why they only have 15% of game revenue. Yeah. But total revenue for 2017 between games and other formats is $554 million. That's pretty good for a burgeoning industry that's just...
I just love the fact that what I've been saying for the longest time, with such small audiences, most VR publishers can invest in long.
Well, that's always been the catch. But I think that the ones that have gone out on a limb have proven that it is.
But have they made money? That's the thing. That's the question. And that's what we always come back to. Is like, again, I'm gonna pull. You guys haven't seen this yet. I got a new toy called my business hat. I'm pulling my business hat out right now. So you can make a long game, but the long game takes more time and money and resources to make. So will you get the game back? So again, these numbers. So Elder Scrolls 5 Skyrim made $2.2 million on PSVR. I wonder how much it cost to make. Granted, that was a port, so it's probably less.
That's why I think that wins, is that I think the fact that you have a 5-6-year-old game that's already made.
But you know what that says to me? We're just going to get a bunch of ports and nothing new, which is what I don't want.
You know what? If they look like Skyrim, I'm fine with it.
I'm not, because I don't want to have the same. I don't want fucking same games over and over again. I want something new.
That's fair. But I think that
I want more
revenue
points
generated in the VR market. So here's the thing, though: the ports support the other stuff, because if you're gonna have a ton of ports coming over, let's say we get a bunch of good ports come over, those are the backbone. Those are selling the most. Those are the ones that are like probably the least amount of hassle for a company like Bethesda, because they just pay another company to port it. They're probably making money off it, and so they do a bunch of that. Then you bring people to the platform. The more people come to the platform, the more people can buy the other games.
Yes and no.
Come on, business hat. You should be with me on this.
So yeah, it's sound logic, but the concern I have with that aspect is how many people are going to buy a game again in VR unless it's a VR add-on. Because I think Skyrim, to me, people bought it again, but there's also a lot of groaning. I know people who didn't buy it because they already owned Skyrim 3 or 4 times.
Skyrim's unique in that aspect, though, because Skyrim has released on like 24.
Okay,
platforms.
let's say. I don't know. Let's pick a game that came out.
That was already remastered and all that kind of stuff.
Let's say Order 1866. I'm going to use that as an example.
Okay.
Because to me, it would fit perfectly in VR because of how the movement is and how slow it is with locomotion. If they were to make that in VR, A, I don't know how much it would cost to make, but B, how many people would buy that game in VR even if they already own it versus like making a VR add-on mode. Like, I don't know. I feel like... and again, I think it's just me being selfish that I want new things because I want original IPs, or I want, and I keep saying it, AAA IPs that are made for VR. I don't want the same shit brought out again because I've already played games. I don't want to play them again. I'm one of those people that, like, when I'm done, especially, I'm the generation guy. When I'm done with the generation, I very rarely go back. I don't care much about backwards compatibility.
I'm not, though. So I think there's both types of opinion out there. That I agree with your opinion in the fact that
because I want VR to stand on its own with its own IPs.
You have to get there, and that's the thing, is that like this stuff helps supplement that. So if I'm like, I personally do like going back and playing older games that I had a good time with, and I really enjoy the remaster generation that we have going on right now. I
hate them. I got in a debate with somebody the other day about it, and I was like,
that's where we differ. Like there's people that like with Shadows of the Colossus when that came out, I was super excited. I picked it up. I loved it. I had so much nostalgia, and they did such a great job of the remaster. And you know, there's some people that are just like, I don't give a shit, and that's fine. But there are those two types of people out there. Not everyone is of the same mind as you, sir.
Oh, everybody is. Also, my hat's very wiggly right now.
It's got a wobbly dollar.
Very, very wiggly. I mean, I get that, but I also, again, I want VR to have an IP that you say, why do you buy PSVR? You don't buy PSVR because you get Uncharted 4 and then Uncharted 4 VR. You get PSVR because you have Uncharted VR that is made for PSVR, that is a whole new experience that you've not done before, that blows your mind. Because why would you want to play the same? To me, I don't watch fucking movies multiple times usually either. I don't like hearing the same story multiple times that often. Like, there's very rare occasions for me. Harry Potter is one of the ones that I'll go back and watch constantly because I just love that world. The story, I could give two shits about. It's always the extra stuff that you catch. So, like, for me, going back and playing a game and investing 10, 15 hours into an Uncharted, or whatever, I don't know how long Uncharted is. I've never finished one.
Right. About 10, 15.
But putting that in there, I'd rather have a new story. You can build it on the same engine, you can build the same assets. Give me a new story.
What about Moss?
What about Moss?
Moss, new IP, original IP, came out, short game, doesn't matter. Came out, original IP, beautifully done, masterful example of VR. Quill is solid enough to be literally the mascot for PSVR, and that probably wouldn't have come about if it wasn't for the interest generated by Skyrim and other games. I mean, Skyrim and Moss were announced at the same thing, but the amount of headsets that were picked up because of Skyrim that then bought Moss, again, it was like $30.
But I feel like we're making similar arguments but slightly different. I don't care. Give me the Elder Scrolls IP. I don't want Skyrim. Okay. That's where I'm looking at it, is give me Uncharted IP, give me Last of Us would be fucking terrifying, but give me Last of Us IP, but I don't want Last of Us in VR, if that makes sense.
Well,
I want
that actually boils into our question later, so I'll put a dampener on your
business hat off.
Business hat for now.
It's very wobbly. I've never, like, it doesn't fit in frame, but it's very...
This is what everyone in England wears.
16-inch tall,
16-inch tall
dollar signs.
The dollar hats, just let you know. The bigger the dollar, the more rich you are.
So... You guys use pounds, though.
In other VR news, outside of the world of PSVR...
That's what I should get. I should get a pound on there.
Get a pound.
Pound sign.
Add one to it. I'll buy one. We'll add one to it.
A pound sign.
Put it on the backside.
Yeah.
So VR is spreading its wings somewhat into other aspects of our world, and
I feel like it has been.
It has been for sure, but I always like to point out when it does, because I think it's important. But for the medium, and you know, as much as PSVR is our focus, VR as a medium is the one we want to succeed.
Social is going to be what pushes it.
Social will, I think you're probably spot on with that.
I know, I'm always right, Tom.
So,
like, I want new IPs and not the same games.
VR being used to help kids take vaccines is a good example. This is something that recently came out. It was an adorable little video that I'll try and include here, or if not, I might just upload it to the channel as a separate thing. But yeah, so basically, they have this video out there where the kids have to go in for a vaccine. What's the scariest thing when you're a kid, right? He's getting a needle in the arm, right?
Oh, I loved it.
You did? You're fucking weird.
Yeah, dude, I was that kid. Like, my sister, I get it because my sister was.
How do you love that? You're just like, yes, pain.
Well, no, my sister would freak out, but I was always, whenever they would give me like a vaccine or if they take blood, I was that guy that, like, I'd watch the needle go in, I'd just squirt the blood, like squeeze my wrist and squirt the blood out, because it was like,
God, you're so weird.
Yeah,
I would see the blood squirting and pass out.
I love that kind of shit.
That guy.
I love that kind of shit.
Anyway,
but you rack your balls. Whew! Can't do that. Or bones. I can't do bones. Like, if a bone's sticking out, nope. But blood with needles, I can do. Needles don't scare me.
Needles do scare me, and it's amazing how we have a show together.
Yeah.
So needles do scare me, and as a child especially, they scared me. Now, I did actually get over my fear of needles, which is because when I moved to America, they gave me 7 shots in one go.
Have you ever gotten a needle in your ass? That's not fun. That's the one. That's the one. I'm like, nope.
More than a needle in my ass,
Whoa.
good sir, for other medical reasons, not for
pleasure,
not for fun.
Not for pleasure.
But yeah, no, I had 7 needles in my arm in a row for my America vaccines when I moved here, and literally after that day I was so fucking just like, I destroyed my fear of needles just by having to like be just like subjected to it over and over again. So
that's
what
like
they're using,
when I went to Puerto Rico, they did the same thing, because you have to match that country's requirements.
What they are using now to help kids along is VR. So what they're doing is they're strapping these kids into a VR headset, and they have this adorable like cartoon character dude that just like talks about things with you, and kind of like, you know, almost like how like the nurse used to start talking about like, oh, where are you going on vacation this year? And, you know, as they start like getting the needle closer to you, trying to distract you. And so this is a perfect distraction. And they start talking about the vaccine, and they start talking about the cotton and stuff, but it's like, and they're like, we're going to swap your thing with cotton now. And like, as the on-screen character is doing it, the real doctor is doing it.
Which I don't know how they, I want to know how they time that up.
I guess I just watched it enough times and figured it out.
But what if the kid like freaks out? Like, you can't just like, oh, I'm gonna stop now. That's what I'm saying. Like, how do you time
I'm
it?
also worried about the fact that like usually with VR they say that you're not allowed to be a certain age. You can't be like 6 and be in VR, but these kids are young. So you know, as the needle goes in, the VR person's doing something. So you're so distracted by this VR environment and all the crazy shit that's going on that you get your injection, you're fine, and you move on with your life. And I think that is a beautiful thing. I think it's that is utilizing VR in a very sort of positive manner to do something that it helps kids that are scared of needles. Like, what's wrong with that? You know what I mean? Like, that's
get over it. Become a heroin addict.
Business hat.
Business hat.
Get over it. Become a heroin addict.
This is kids getting away from heroin. In the long run,
maybe it's a
psychological thing.
Like
I think it's cool.
In
seriousness, I think it's pretty cool. I don't, like I said, I've never had a issue with needles. I know people that will literally start crying at the sight of a needle, and I don't get that. But it's also, I'm that way with snakes. Like, I will seize up with snakes, and I get that that's a thing. But like, I don't know. I also grew up in a family that my mom said, suck it up, you're going to get it either way. So
there's definitely like a snowflake thing about this, but I think that, you know, if we have the technology, let's use it. That's the place that I'm at. I wish that I had this level of distraction when I was a kid, and I think that I don't subscribe to the thing of like the world's tough and a shitty place and you should just deal with it early. Like, yes, it is a tough and a shitty place, but why not utilize our various scientific, you know, discoveries and technological advancement to make that less shitty? That's kind of
because then you're not living in the real world, Tom.
Hey, we live in the virtual world. That's how we do it on Codename Morpheus. And alongside that, a bit of VR news, another industry that's picking up with VR is actually the car industry. So believe it or not, Volkswagen now has 10,000 employees being trained on how to do their job with VR.
It's like that KFC simulator that I don't know if it's real or not. I still don't know if that was real. I think it is.
It's like an April Fool's Day.
I'm pretty sure it's real.
So in 2013, Volkswagen demonstrated a new process by which service workers could use augmented reality to service a vehicle. During the demo, attendees watched as Volkswagen technicians manipulated virtual parts that corresponded to real-world actions. This year, the Volkswagen Group has revealed the next step of its VR training plans in the form of a global initiative that would bring VR training to 10,000 employees of Audi, Seat, Skoda, and Volkswagen. Over 30 VR training experiences cover everything from vehicle assembly, new team member training, and customer service. Each Volkswagen VR training experience was created by the VR studio InnoActive with the goal to educate employees across multiple brands and create a more efficient workflow in a way that allows employees to train at a pace they're comfortable with without having to travel. They can even begin training before a factory even exists. To accomplish this, InnoActive, God, that's such a weird word to say, InnoActive created a hub that would bring all employees of the Volkswagen Group together through an HTC Vive. Volkswagen sees the biggest benefit of VR training when employees are exposed to as many training experiences in as many plant locations worldwide as possible. With a stable infrastructure in place, they are able to upload brand new content to different plants worldwide, depending on the brand and type of the training needed, with ease and efficiency. The thing about VR training is scalability, said Gregor, I'm not even going to try and pronounce that last name, training consultant for Rock Paper Partners during an interview with VR Scout. Once organizations make the investment in creating the systems and infrastructure, they can easily connect their entire workforce no matter how many people they have and no matter where they are. As a result, a VR/AR favors very large global businesses like Volkswagen. So there's more, but you can read the full article in the description below. But how do we feel about that one? That's a bigger scale than the vaccine thing.
I'm a bit mixed on it for multiple reasons. One, I think it's cool. I think there are certain instances where VR makes a big difference with training, and it from a, again, I'm not going to put the hat on, but business perspective, you're trying to cut costs in the long run of travel, getting getting people to a location. I mean, we work at a company that now no longer sends you to travel for training. Like, it's because it's expensive. It's not because they don't want to do it.
It's not expensive to make a VR infrastructure.
No, but once you have it in the long run,
it kind of works out in the long run.
It's money up front to then in the long run to be cheaper. The concern I have is depending on what the person's job is at Volkswagen, like you cannot replace tactile feel for some things. You cannot replace the knowing what this thing is supposed to feel like when it goes and clicks in properly. Like, you can try as much as you want right now in VR to replicate that. That's not existent. So I don't know again what they're using it for, but say they're using it to assemble mufflers. And mufflers have, most of them have either 2 to 4 screws you got to put in to attach it to the chassis. You can tell in VR when it's okay, it's tight, but there's a feel of like knowing how tight is on it that you won't have until you're actually on the job. But it's cool for the people that don't have the plants open yet to be able to do that, to get the basics down. It's fine-tuning then from there. So I'm hoping that this isn't all the training. I'm hoping that this is like the...
Well, I think there's got to be a practical aspect that's added on there afterwards. But I mean, if you think about how we train for the technical, so you don't do the technical part of the job that I do. So for our training, there is no VR. It is videos. So we watch a video on how to do
your job,
my job, and then that doesn't have,
which is super boring. I've seen people sitting there just like,
oh yeah, they're super boring. But like it is about taking screws out and replacing parts and that kind of stuff. And you watch it, you learn the order of things and kind of what goes where. But realistically, you're not really going to know what you're doing until you get your hands on it.
Yep.
But I do think that watching a video versus being in VR, if I can imagine doing like training of my job in VR, I think I would have a far better understanding of it if I was able to do it in that format.
Way back in the day, one of my first jobs ever was McDonald's. And I was a cashier for McDonald's, but they also teach you, obviously, the menu. They teach you about how the things are prepared so you can better speak to the person coming in. And it was no joke sitting there in front of a TV screen for 2 8-hour days of just like, here you go. And I was like, I remember just not paying attention half the time.
Oh, yeah.
And that's where I think I don't want to say it. I really like this idea, and I think it is important, but I also want to make sure that we don't just do this. You still have to have the follow-up with the tactile stuff that goes along with it.
Some hands.
I also think the cool thing with this, what they were talking about, and it's a hell of an infrastructure to pull off, but you can have people from multiple factories doing the same thing at once, and theoretically you could have somebody monitoring what they're doing and going over to them. So like, say Joe Schmo over there is putting his muffler on and he has a question about a piece or something that's not working quite right. Whoever's leading the training can literally teleport to Joe Schmo and be like, oh yeah, you've got this flipped upside down or whatever, or this piece, take it apart.
Actual engineers
Have you ever seen the game? I think it's called Car Mechanic. I think it's just legit name of the game, where it has 22,000 car pieces that you can pull off one by one.
Oh.
So that in VR would be really cool and be like, okay, what did I miss? So I'm interested to see kind of like with customer service how they do it and stuff like that. Like it depends on what their customer service is entailing, because it's not just it's not answering phone calls. It's not answering phone calls. It's more maybe getting them to understand what the process is. But yeah, it's cool. I like the idea of it. I just am gonna be an old fart when I say there still needs to be the tactile feel.
I think if you can I think if you supplement this for videos but still have the actual hands-on time, I think you're in a good spot. I think it would be far better than watching a video to actually be in VR doing
and you won't fall asleep.
And remember, this is like how like pilots and stuff train, and it's a similar principle for them. It's you're not really going to know until you get in the plane and take off, but you can definitely be as prepared as fully possible. So I think that's cool. Cool. So that's your news roundup for the week, and we'll be moving on now to our spotlight. And I really debated what I wanted to do here because it's been 2 weeks, and I've played a lot of games in these 2 weeks. I could talk about Honor and Duty and my experience with that, but you can just go watch a review for that, and I have reviews for everything that we're going to talk about. I thought about Moss. I will say I thought about Moss. Moss had a bit of controversy in the fact that it's a shorter game. It's 2.5 hours. My playthrough was 2.5 hours. Some people are taking 3 to 4 if they take their time, or if they get stuck a lot. But Moss, I think, is hands down one of the best looking games on PSVR, best feeling games, most kind of immersive games because it brings you into the story in a very unique way, and I think it's absolute testament to the platform. So I love Moss a lot, and that's what all I'll say about Moss. The game I'm going to spotlight, though, is one that I don't think maybe everyone has had chance to.
Because Moss has been over the PSVR
Moss has
news.
been covered. Moss has been all over the place. Let's talk about Blasters of the Universe. So
it bugs me you didn't capitalize your U, so I'm going to do that now.
Go ahead.
They can't see it, but it...
Blasters of the Universe is the world's first VR bullet hell game.
Their quote.
Yeah, their quote.
I can't.
But
I'm assuming
as far as I know, I don't think there's another one out there. There's a lot of gallery shooters, right? But bullet hell is different. So for those of you that don't know where bullet hell kind of came from, that again, watch my review. But if you don't have time, whatever. The bullet hell essentially came from early Japanese arcade games where there was a boss, and I forget the name of the first one, but the
Joshi Genjo.
You're just saying words, or not even words, really, just gibberish. There was some early Japanese arcade games that like you would reach the boss level, and like back in the day, I guess they were just trying to figure out like with these sort of like space shooter games, like how do we make this harder once you get to a boss? And the answer apparently was more bullets, lots and lots of bullets. The actual Japanese word translates in English to barrage, but there's a mistranslation that occurred back in the day, and the mistranslation is either bullet curtain or bullet hell, and you can guess which one stuck, right? So bullet hell, which is a dope name, I love that. I think that should be a band name. Bullet hell games are basically games where you are usually a character that has a very small hitbox, but you do have to survive swaths of bullets from all over the damn place. And a common modern day example.
Bullet hell is a band.
Bullet hell, is it?
Yes.
Good. Yeah, play some in a minute.
I'm trying to figure out where they're from.
Let's listen to it real quick.
They're from Scotland.
Okay, do it.
This is called Warm Up.
Do it.
Assuming it'll load.
Bullet hell, we're giving you some props. What? Skip it. Forward.
Techie one?
I just meant the song forward.
Oh. This is what I picture bullet hell being. There's no... You got one,
it's
two,
quirky.
1, 2, 2, 1.
No singing.
No.
All right, we're done.
And you also got new.
You guys are not bad. Anyway, so a bullet hell, small hitbox. A good modern example is Enter the Gungeon. Enter the Gungeon came out, last year was it? And 2 years, really?
Year and a half, 2 years ago.
Just recently came out on Switch.
Yeah.
That's why I kind of got it confused. But Enter the Gungeon, good example of a modern day Western bullet hell, but of course, bullet hells
2016
primarily evolved from Japan. So, yeah, you are a character with a small hitbox in a room full of lots and lots of bullets. You have to dodge the bullets and fire back to take out the things that are firing bullets at you. In a nutshell, that's what a bullet hell game is. So my initial question when we watched the original trailer for Blasters of the Universe was, how the fuck do you do that in VR? Because if you imagine yourself in like a super hot style scenario where there are thousands of bullets raining themselves towards you at any given time, how do you avoid all of those? Like, I was thinking, like, for a start, how do they know where your body is? Like, how do you, like, do you just, like, jump around like Neo from the Matrix? Like, how do you play a bullet hell game in VR? It didn't make sense to us at the time watching, and we were both just kind of scratching our heads like, it looks cool, but, like, I don't know how that works. Like, I don't get it. So after playing it, of course, I get it. And here's the trick.
Well, it's good, because it's out.
Right.
Because if you didn't at that point, then you're in trouble.
And not only is it out, it's really, really fucking good. So Blasters of the Universe is definitely quirky. The storyline is basically that this kind of like arcade demon dude who is like the awesomest 90s arcade player ever just wrecked everybody. Finally got his hands on a VR arcade game, and he somehow got sucked into it, created his own universe, and he basically tries to get people to come in and challenges them with the hardest challenge possible because he's such a good arcade player. His name is Alwyn, or Grandmaster Alwyn, and so he
I get it. He wins them all.
I guess, yeah. So yeah, he makes a bullet hell game, and when you get sucked into said virtual reality game, you are against him and his amalgamations, is like flying heads and spacemen and little bugs, and like the enemies are all over the map. Like they are just, there's no consistency, which is good because it makes it more interesting because they're just fucking crazy. But here's how they do the bullet hell in VR. Here's how this works, and this is what I want you to consider. Your head is your hitbox. That's it. So as bullets are coming towards you in VR from all angles, obviously, the most important thing is that your head is the only thing you have to move away from the bullets. Your body is completely disposable, your arms, your guns, everything else that you have is fine, but you have to protect your head. So you find yourself with like big spirals coming towards you, and you're trying to like center your head in the spirals so the bullets go around your head, and like there might be some coming from this way and some coming from this way, but you have a gun and a shield, so you can like block these ones with like just moving your head and hold your shield up here to block the ones on this side. So it's really smartly done. But the most interesting aspect of it for me was the customization, the level of customization in your guns and your shields at the same time. So you get a standard kind of pistol or whatever to begin with. It's kind of spacey. It's kind of it's not like they're not real life gun. The gun looks ridiculous, but in the best possible way. So you can tweak so many different modifiers on your gun to try and get this perfect combination of how you can get through the level. So obviously you have like, sometimes you'll get spread fire with so many bullets, other times you'll get a laser. You can have different ways you reload, like maybe faster reloads that have less powerful bullets, or longer reloads that are more powerful but they move slower, or whatever it might be. Like there's gives and takes to every single modification that you make to your weapon, but it's entirely possible to play a level, get fucking owned when you play it, come back out to the armory, change a few things around, go back in and wreck everything just based upon your selections of your weapon. That's entirely plausible and happened a lot to me. The shield is very similar in nature. Your shields can do all kinds of things. Some of them are just shields you hold up and you reflect, or they just absorb damage. It takes so much and they'll disintegrate and you have to wait for it to charge. Other ones you can actually bat the bullets back at people. You have some that you can hover, like you can let them go and hover them in places that you want to try and protect yourself. So you can have like 3 small ones that you can place, one here, one there, and then you're kind of space invaders, dodging in between the gaps, trying to shoot things. And there are many other ones too.
Can you shoot through your shield?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. So it's kind of, it's really well done. Now, my only complaint with it was that it's not very long. It is long in the sense that it will take you quite a while to pass some of these levels, especially in hell mode. Casual mode, it took me 2 to 3 hours to get through 4 levels. And there are only 4 levels. Now, they can add in a bunch more with DLC, obviously, but there's 4 main levels, and there's like a challenge mode. Challenge mode is endless, and it changes. So every time, every couple days, they give you like a different selection of, like you get this weapon with this loadout, this shield, and you're in this area with these types of enemies, and it'll be like, okay, get 15 aerial kills or whatever. So like, and they have these things. It's endless, but you have to try and hit these challenges as you're going through. That's to try and keep engagement. But the 4 main levels they're really cool. They definitely are hard as shit in the hell mode. They're pretty hard and casual, to be honest with you. Like I said, I got owned quite severely, quite a lot, and it wasn't until I started to get to grips with the guns. You make progression in small ways as well. So like, I can have a couple goes at a level, still fail, and still unlock things. So when I'm like, just because I got so far, so many points or whatever, I can still come out and maybe like, oh, I earned that one thing that might actually get me further. So like, there's sort of the sense of like being
grinding.
Able to sort of like, even if you're dying a lot, you're still potentially progressing towards something that'll help you pass the level. I will say they are complete. There's no checkpoints. It's whole level or nothing. You get to the boss, you die at the boss, get back to the beginning, try again. So that's good, because I think that does breed longevity for this particular style of game. And this is a game that, is about patterns as well. Like, okay, this is the part where this guy comes out. This is the part where there's a yoga instructor up here that's firing down squares at me. And this over here is the spiral dude or whatever. It gets super hectic. the nostalgia is great. The music is great. Like, it's kind of like hollow ball music, but it feels like Super Hot. It feels a lot like Super Hot because you're essentially having to dodge consistently with your head. You're having to fire while you're dodging. Everything is chaos. There's like, you know, it's you feel awesome. And when you start pulling off some sick moves or start getting some really interesting modifications for your weapons, it feels great. It is the single best stand-in-place shooter on the system right now. I will throw my hat in the ring.
Including Super Hot?
Including Super Hot. I preferred it to Super Hot. Yeah. Now, I won't say that for everyone because I know some people like adore Super Hot.
Yeah, I love Super Hot.
For me, for Super Hot, the part that threw me off was the throwing. Like, I really loved shooting the guns. I thought that was great. I loved catching them and shooting and stuff. The time mechanic is interesting. I thought it was kind of basic. Like, I didn't really like the sterility of it, like the fact that you're kind of just like always in a white environment with orange dudes and there's not really much personality there. I mean, it's fine, but like, I think with Blasters of the Universe, you have this, like, there's a lot of nostalgia there. There's jokes in there. You were actually, I remember you mentioned that when we watched the trailer, you were like, this guy's kind of annoying because the guy's like ripping on you while you're playing. It's not as annoying when you're playing because you can tell that when he's ripping on you, it's because he's failing. Like, as you're kicking his ass, he is like giving you more and more shit because like he knows you're kicking his ass kind of thing. And sometimes he's super funny. So I would say that the kind of the jokes and the nostalgia and the environments and those kind of things are less sterile than Super Hot, and the challenge is well up there. From what I can tell as well, and I spend a little bit of time creeping on the r/PSVR forums, everyone so far that's played it has fell in love with it and has said, like, this is so underrated right now. Like, aside from the fact that it's 4 levels, which is the only downside to it. I mean, when your downside is I want more, you know, that's a pretty fucking good downside,
Not
right?
Bad.
So yeah, that's Blasters of the Universe. I had the best time playing this game. I was so entrenched in it. I like, even after I was done recording, I was still playing it. My wife had to come down and get me out of it. She had to physically come and remove the controllers from my hands, as I was having that much fun. So yeah, I absolutely fully stand behind Blasters of the Universe, and I think that at the price point as well, totally worth it. Pick up that game. It's a lot of fun, especially if you like the idea of trying out a bullet hell in VR. And I think you'd like it too. I honestly think that you should give it a shot. I think you'd like it. Cool. So that being said, let's move on to our question of the week. And I have 2 choices for you. One is a question you asked me to ask you, so I think that you probably want to go with that one. The other one is kind of came up from the Moss debate that happened a week ago. Which do you want?
I don't care.
You don't care? Let's do the one that we touched on earlier that you asked me to ask you. Would a traditional franchise work in VR? Go.
Some.
Okay.
So yeah, this came up. So the way this came about was I was in one of the groups I'm in, and some people like, I want this game to be VR. I want this game to be VR. I want this game to be VR. And you're just like, no, you don't.
It gets a little annoying.
Yeah, no, you don't. You don't. Trust me, you don't want fucking Crash Bandicoot in VR. You would throw up. Yeah. Like, I get people having the tug towards like Skyrim, like, because Skyrim is what started this. Oh, Skyrim's in VR. I want to have God of War in VR. And like, yes and no. I've always been a fan of, and as I said earlier, I want those IPs. I don't want those games, because those games most of the time are not made with VR in mind, and they have to either tweak things to make it work in VR, or it just would be so nauseating that it would not work. Like a prime example that somebody said the other day, they're like, I want a 2K NBA basketball game in VR.
There is one. It sucks.
Well... Not really. It's not a basketball game.
Not in the traditional sense, no. But there is a.
But like, my thought was like, yeah, a basketball game in VR would be cool. How would you do it? I don't think you want 2K put into first person, because man, that would be disorienting.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I like that concept.
VR soccer game looked.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But it's also made for that VR, instance. Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. Like, if you can take games, like I've said multiple times on the show, I want Uncharted climbing in VR. Like, to me, that would be so much fun. I don't want Uncharted 4 in VR, because there's so much going on in that game that I would just be like, whoa. But at the same time, it has moments and things that I think would be really cool to have in VR. Like, if you could do Uncharted VR with the aspect of the exploration, and even the cover-based shooting would work, and the climbing, like, that is when I think of Uncharted, that's what I think of. The big vistas. Like if you think about what's the one they released with the two girls? It's the one after
Lost
Uncharted.
Legacy.
That one. They have a moment, and even I didn't play it myself. I watched Jacksepticeye play it, but there's a moment where they get up to this peak and just opens up to, I'm not going to say where it is, but one of the main areas you're looking for, and it's so beautiful looking. All I can think of is like, how cool would that be to see in first person? Like moments like that, I think would be cool for VR. But you obviously have to tie those moments together with some sort of gameplay. You can't just walk out. But the one that got me go, you don't want that, was some dude was like, I want Crash Bandicoot in VR, and I was like, no, you don't.
I think the common mistake when it comes to this type of thinking is that you have to make it first person, because I think Moss and Theseus, to an extent, proved that you don't. Theseus proved you can do like a Tomb Raider style game, third person in VR, and still feel pretty good about it. Bound as well was a third person platformer with elements of combat, and Moss, I think, is the nail in the coffin for that argument, because I think that Moss was like, okay,
you would really like Wayward Sky if you like Moss. I think it's funny because like when that game came out, like that was my surprise game at launch, was Wayward Sky, and was watching like a YouTube video the day of like top 5 underrated PSVR games that you probably missed, and Wayward Sky was on there, and I was like, I totally forgot about the game, but I loved it at launch.
Yeah. Until you just mentioned it, actually.
It's so good.
But yeah, but that idea of like looking down on an area and kind of having to navigate by jumping and fighting, and like that is Uncharted. You know, you could have a third-person Uncharted game. It would have to be made for VR. It could. I wouldn't want to port, like you said, but I think that you could pull off that style totally well in VR. Like the reason why it works so well for a game like Moss is that they take into account that the character is a mouse. So like one of the things that Moss did really well was that like you would be in a certain environment, and you know your little Quill's there and she's just chilling, and you would look up and there would be like a deer, because you're in a forest, but there's a deer just watching you, but it's like the deer is life-size to you as the omnipotent god.
The person watching.
But yeah, but to Quill, it's the size of a mouse and a deer.
And do you think, because when VR first came out, we had this debate a long time ago of like first person versus third person. You were always super like, it should be first person.
I think first person works best, but that doesn't mean that third person can't work.
Because I've always been a fan of, I've been more of a fan, I think, of third person for 2 reasons. One, I don't like the giant things in my face, and like that just, it weirds me out when that happens.
That's what I want out of VR, though. I want to experience the feeling of being in another world.
I like that.
I feel like first person does that best.
I mean, Skyrim, walking around Skyrim is super cool.
Right.
I want more things like that if it were first person. But I think from a gameplay perspective, I think for me personally, third person is the route to go. And like you said, you'd have to tweak some things if you did that for. Again, Uncharted is the example we've been using, but Uncharted, if you put that in VR, like you'd have to tweak some things, and you could make it work. But I would still prefer to have a game made from the ground up that is Uncharted VR, or whatever the hell they call it, Uncharted the VR tapes, Uncharted the VR legacy.
You heard it here first.
Yeah. Because I think that'd be kind of cool. And again, I've also said it multiple times, is I think Sony needs to put their big IP behind PSVR. Like they've shown they're supporting it, but to get the person that is still on the fence at this point about VR, I don't think it's going to be Moss. I don't think it might be Firewall, but even that, I don't think Firewall will do it. But I think Firewall has people intrigued. I think it'll take a first party Sony IP that is made by Sony and not given to some other developer to do, and say, this is a full experience in this world you love, and it's not a tack on, it's not an experience, it's a game. And I think once that happens, if God of War, for whatever reason, comes out and has a VR element to it, they designed it with, like Resident Evil style, where they designed it with that concept in mind, I think it'd be fine. If they said, hey, we just want to make God of War VR without thinking about how that would translate, then it'll be a bit tricky. So that's kind of my take on a lot of this, is you want to have that balance of like, you don't necessarily want something, you don't want everything in VR. Not everything should be in VR. Period.
Yeah, that's the common mistake I think that people are running their heads.
They're like, my favorite game should be here.
Yeah, if you see the forums anywhere, whether it's a Facebook group that you're in or whether it's r/PSVR or whatever, there's so many people, especially mostly new PSVR
They're like, I want Game
users
X.
that I want Shadows of the Colossus in VR, right? And like to an extent, yeah, that'd be pretty sweet. But also, like
the ragdoll physics.
Are you bringing into account how nauseating that would be? Yeah. And you know, there's a certain amount of people I think that saw Skyrim and just thought, oh man, you can make any game VR just because Skyrim works. No, Skyrim worked because it's a first-person shooter that's slow-paced, and it kind of is. It's a perfect translation.
There's also no jerky movements outside of being stunned. Like there's no flips, there's no
there's no somersaults or anything.
Like Spider-Man in VR would be really cool, but you'd have to, I think, unless they find a way to do it correctly again for VR, you couldn't just put Insomniac Spider-Man VR because of the backflip. If you're doing a back handspring and you're not prepared for it, you would throw up. Yeah. So it's like, it's one of those things, like I would love to see Spider-Man in VR, but that Spider-Man in VR has to be tailored control-wise and movement-wise.
Stunted a little bit to
as time goes along and things get better, it doesn't have to be, but where we are right now, I think it's
you're totally right.
Gotta be.
I mean, Windlands is about as close as it gets right now.
If Windlands had a Spider-Man skin on it, I'd be all for it. Granted, they'd have to change like their little grab the orb thing or something to change it. But yeah, I would love. Windlands proved to me that you can do a Spider-Man web slinging game.
Absolutely.
I want Spider-Man. I don't know if I'm a Spider-Man racer, but like Spider-Man racing in VR, like web slinging racing.
Be interesting.
That'd be an experience.
I mean,
not as a standalone game.
I mean, like, but you know, there are certain formulas that work particularly well as well, though, like things like Wipeout, right? So Wipeout's going to get a VR skin. That's perfect.
I mean, Gone Home would be perfect.
Racing games are perfectly translated to VR with no thought needed.
Yeah,
because every racing game can be done. Like whether it's first person or third person is a whole other kettle of fish. Obviously in VR you probably want it to be first person, but even things like Sprint Vector, which aren't really like normal racing, that's not a normal racing game. You don't climb in a normal racing game, but it works perfectly in VR. So there's certain genres, and I think first person always like takes the lead as far as, just because that's kind of what you in VR you want to look through the eyes of the person. That's kind of what you're in another world. So when you look around, it makes sense that you should be looking around from the eyes or perspective of the character that you are. But you know, but games like Moss, which actually surprised me with how much I enjoyed it, because I knew I'd like it. After the demo, I knew I'd like it. But I think that I wasn't expecting it to work as well as it did, and it opened doors in my mind to the thoughts of, like, you could totally do an Uncharted like this, or you could totally do like a God of War like this, where, I mean, God of War is running from screen to screen and flipping around and doing, you know, stuff. So if it's not first person and making you sick, and you're actually just watching it, but you have like this cool like hills and environments, and like the monsters are huge in front of you, and like I think it would
like it's more tactical based,
right? But then the question, you know, that comes up then is the same one that you always have, which is like, does it need to be in VR? So like there's definitely a double-edged sword there of like games that need to be versus, but then, you know, does the IP make it worth it? So I think you're kind of on point there with that. But
on point.
Get out of here. But yeah, it's an interesting thought process. I think new IP for VR right now is in a sketchy place. It was in a really good place about 2 weeks ago. And I think it's gotten a little sketchier since
Firewall to me is kind of the next big one, but after everything has gone down,
I think Blood and Truth is going to be cool too.
Yeah, see, Blood and Truth looks cool. I'm also nervous of it because of some of the limitations they have as well. The no free movement.
I don't think it's going to matter. I think they're going to do it in a way.
But based on what's happened with Bravo Team, I know it's different developers. Don't get me wrong there, but that's what I'm saying is.
But even when you're not in control of your movement, you're still in control of your movement.
But people have soured to that feeling because of what's happened here. That's
you're not wrong. You're not wrong. But I think if you're looking at like London Heist, and you're looking at the things like London Heist, the large majority of that,
you're not moving. You're not moving at all.
You're not moving at all. But with this game, like, you will be moving from cover to cover, and you'll be able to shoot from cover to cover, but you're not going to be in control of moving to cover. So I think that, like, there's definitely...
It's how they handle it.
There's elements to it, I think, that are going to be done very well. I don't
think it's going to be bad. Again, don't think it's going to be a bad game. I just am a little bit more leery because of what's gone on now, because we've hyped up these games. The only... the games
whose fault is that? That's a good question.
That's what I'm saying.
Is it our fault? Is it Sony's fault?
I think it's a hype fault. It's a hype fault. I think we are now in Gen, and we're going to run a little bit long here, but we're now in Gen 2 of PSVR games, and we have higher expectations, as we talked about a few weeks ago, that, like, is it our fault for expecting now more out of developers because of that? And are we setting ourselves up for failure? Because before, it's like, holy shit, this is new, give me everything I want, because I don't know what I want. And now, like, we have a expectation of what we want, and that's always the scariest part, is when you have an expectation, you're either going to meet it or not.
Yeah.
And it's funny, I always joke, whenever I go into, like, a game or a movie or whatever I'm going to go see, if I have low expectations, like, I think one of the reasons I didn't like Return of the Jedi, Star Wars Last Jedi, was because I had a certain expectation based on the Force Awakens, because I really liked Force Awakens and kind of how they handled. I think they had some holes that they needed to fill, but as a movie as a whole, I liked that movie. So Last Jedi went in after that, and granted it's 2 years. I'm like, okay, it's a Star. I have this hype built around. People around me are super excited. Like, let me go in, and I didn't. Again, not a bad movie, but I just don't think it met what I wanted it to be. Versus I went into. What did I watch the other day? I watched something the other day and I had no expectation for it, and just like, holy shit, that's really good. And it's all set on that, and that comes up. That's both an individual, that's marketing. I mean, the marketing's job is to hype stuff up, but if the hype is not met by the product, then you're in trouble.
Yeah.
So
well said. All right, so that's Codename Morpheus, episode 28. We got to show you the new releases this week, the sales, of which they were limited, but cool. All the news, including the controversy surrounding Bravo Team's release, all the way through to Volkswagen training 10,000 people in VR. And we spotlighted Blasters of the Universe for you, so you can definitely go and check out more on that. I do have a full review available. Just follow our channel, you'll find it. I'd like to thank, again, everybody for all the consistent love and support that you show us for this show. We love you guys so much. If you want to support us even more, you can stop by at our live stream, which is going through March 11th through to the 12th. It's a 24-hour stream where we will be giving away keys to a bunch of PSVR games and indie games too. And we would love for you guys to help donate to Able Gamers, because Able Gamers is a charity that helps people with disabilities to game, and VR is the perfect
They're working
match
on something right
for
now.
that.
I can't talk about it because I got in touch with somebody over there, and they know they're working on VR right now. Very hard.
That's great.
Working on
That's
VR.
great.
One of the things I do want to say that will be on Twitch, not on YouTube. So twitch.tv/Level2GamersSTL.
On top of that, if you want to support us outside of that world, buy a t-shirt, man. We made these awesome, I don't know if you can see this, I'm gonna stand up real quick. We made these awesome Codename Morpheus t-shirts with this nice 8-bit PSVR headset that was designed by our animator, Mr. Eric, the animator, aka Wheezy, who's been on the show before. But yeah, buy like Indie or Codename or whatever t-shirts. That money goes directly to us, and we will use that to make the show better. That's how life works. But yeah, thank you so much for all your continued support. And as always, welcome to the second level. Bye.
It ain't no game, but they saying welcome to the second level.